is a presentation of Sertoba Media and Comey Media, Incorporated.
Giants tight end Darren Waller announces sudden retirement from the NFL following a health scare. CJ Stroud compares wide receiver Nico Collins to an NFL Hall of Famer by saying he's a generational talent. And the Packers-Eagles told not to wear green in Brazil ahead of their scheduled Week 1 contest this fall. All that and more on this edition of Total Football Talk. Welcome, one and all. It's that time again. We're back for episode 41 of Total Football Talk. I'm your co-host, Drew Willingham, along with the EP of all EPs, my man, Cole Johnson.
I don't know why I'm feeling this, Rodrigo. Cole Johnson, come on now. You're the next contestant on Total Football Talk. I'm feeling that energy. But how you doing, man?
Brother, you know that inspiration comes from so many things out here in these streams and the previous streams from back in the day when we had standard definition television is definitely running wild through our veins, mine and yours, as we wouldn't be here without those individuals. So you know it and I know it. You can feel it and they can feel it out here as we've got a lot to talk about today. Total Football Talk action. We've got NFL news, UFL news, and, of course, we got to recap Week 1 of the CFL and preview Week 2, as well as the UFL Championship game that we'll have, this upcoming Sunday. So lots for us to definitely keep them entertained with. And with that being said, we're going to take this into the opening drive and see what's in store for that one.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On two. Ready? Great.
The opening drive. We'll start this out with the recap of Week 1 in CFL's action. And we have to look at the first thing that is a little bit different than what we see with the NFL and the UFL, and the fact that this league has an odd number of teams. So with that being said, there's a bye week each and every week for at least one team. So, every single week somebody gets a break. That's why the season is so long. It's abnormally long in comparison to the NFL and the UFL. It's like if you added the UFL season to the NFL, that's literally what you have in the CFL. So right here with this, we have the Montreal Alouettes taking on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers for our first game, but the Ottawa Red Blacks are the team that have the bye this week. And, traveling to Winnipeg, the Alouettes take the victory here, winning the game 27-12. Cody Fajardo, 254 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, also added 7 carries on the ground for 23 yards. The Alouettes running backs without Fajardo, in this is all coming in a win, 50 rushing yards on 16 attempts with a touchdown by Caleb Evans. So, the yards per attempt are pretty low, but they still gave it a decent amount of runs. They had over 15 attempts. They had 16. So 50 rushing yards on 16 attempts is okay, in my opinion. But when you think about that, I think the biggest highlight of them was the Tyson Philpott guy right there. Look at him. I mean, 10 receptions, 141 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was the highlight of the Alouettes on this day. Fajardo's numbers wouldn't be what they were without him. I mean, without Philpott, he had a little over 100 passing yards. So this guy was the human highlight of the day. But also the Alouettes defense, 2 sacks and an interception. Along with that, the contribution by Marc-Antoine Decoy, who was the one who had that interception. When you put all that in comparison to the other side of the teams, Winnipeg Blue Bombers themselves, Zach Collaros, 209 passing yards with an interception, 1 carry for 5 yards on the ground. Nothing in comparison to what Fajardo did, but he didn't have the stud wide receiver like they did on the other side of the field as well. Siaso Mariner, 5 receptions, 62 yards, along with the Blue Bombers defense. You got to say, when you look at their numbers, they absolutely sucked, Cole. Because besides 1 sack and 1 interception by Brian Cole, they were absolutely terrible on this day. When you put all that in perspective, what were your thoughts when you look at the stats, but also the highlights of this game?
Well, normally when you have teams that start early, you normally have those that seem to have had like good training camps, and you could tell that they've clicked and everything is running on all cylinders. And then you could tell the other teams that they had a rough start and rough go of things at training camp. And training camp and preseason just simply didn't click, and chemistry issues are running amok. With the Blue Bombers, the latter, because they couldn't get much going on offense. And when they did, it was probably a little too late type of scenario. And it seemed like with the Alouettes, for of course hiccups here and there, for those exceptions, and probably rushing that could be better. It looks like everything is fine, and I think they've settled into what they're going to be, at least offensively for sure. Defensively for the Alouettes, I think they still have more things to work out, but they're on their way. And I'll have to say, if you're going to hold a team to under 20 points, that's good. If you're going to hold a team under 15, that's great. 12 is awesome. So right now, the Alouettes look like they are ready to roll. Now, can they sustain that through the season? That's a different story. But the Blue Bombers, they have to go back to the drawing board, and it just looks like they have to find an identity. And if they don't, they will circle the drain very fast and for all of this season.
Yeah, they were an absolute dumpster fire to watch in this first game of the year, and this was the only game that we saw in a deficit of by double digits. Every other game was fairly close by at least a possession with extra points or 2-point conversion factored in. I mean, they were relatively close in comparison to it, which made it somewhat difficult to pick the game of the week when it came to this right here. But for this one, I would say it was definitely the most underwhelming game of the week as far as when you look at what the Winnipeg Blue Bombers did. I was watching it that Thursday night on TSN, and it was definitely, if I wasn't at work listening to it while doing other things, I would have considered it a snooze fest if I was like literally watching it play by play at home and actually like chilling at home. I probably would have taken a nap, because it would have been pretty rough to be part of. But no, the Blue Bombers definitely, like you said, training camps, mini camps, all that, you got to put in the work like you would if you're playing in the game. So if you're having a lackluster training camp and preseason leading up to when the season starts, it's going to show. Like, you're going to definitely be exposed in week 1. And I think you hit the nail right there on the head. It's like preparation is key. Like, if you don't put the work in beforehand, when you get to game time, you're not going to have much to really do when it comes to your performance on the field. That's why we give Tyrone Alizé McDummy so much of a hard time when it comes to this UFL. And you can now call, I guess, the Blue Bombers the Winnipeg Tyrone Alizé McDummies.
Oh, Lord.
We have a new entry for Tyrone Alizé McDummy. He's now in all 3 leagues between the NFL, the UFL, and the CFL.
A whole team. It was bad enough he did this with a player. Now he's doing with a whole team. Not one side of the ball, the whole team. Goodness gracious. Oh, Lord.
You know how it is. We got to be wilding out here in these streets at some point.
Acknowledge me.
Goodness gracious. You have run amok. Goodness gracious. Why?
Hey, the Blue Bombers set themselves up for it. You know it, and I know it. Right here, Snowman's in the house saying football, and more football. I'll be covering the UFL Championship. We'll look forward to seeing what you produce out there for the UFL Championship play-by-play. And
Yep,
that'll definitely be awesome for you to check out. I wish I had the free time, the availability to do so, but have way too much going on out here in these streets. I'm just grateful to be out here 2 days a week. So that's how it is. But definitely thank you all for tuning in. Those of you who are just now popping in, as well as Sick Diggy saying good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Well, good late evening to you, Sick.
Yeah, it's 10:30 or so, 10:34, I guess, over there where he is at, and that side of the world. So shout out to you for spending that time. But that's nothing for Sick Diggy. This is his time, but this is like his prime hours of the night. He starts getting rocking and rolling this part of the night. He was rocking and rolling with us, D Willie, in the evening last night, as we had some things to talk about for episode 24, and announced that in 2 weeks will be the season 2 season finale. So
wow.
The first season was 12 episodes. The second season's 14, and your boys got to take a break sometimes. So, you gotta do it. So, give my Sundays back for the summer. But there it is. But we still got this on Mondays and the Inter-House Sports Debate. So those of you watching on Sartoba Media, don't you freak out. We still got stuff for you each and every week. Just your boy needs to take it easy sometimes. But other than that, we got another game we got to talk about out here. That's only one game. We got 3 more to go through. So the next game we have up here on the slate is a team that I really like their name. I really like the name of the winning team, the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Like, that is a team that sounds like they are coming in there after each one of them has bucked a gallon of milk, and they are ready to rock and roll. The muscles are jacked. They got Viking hair like yours truly right here before he donates it this week, okay? So you got to think about it. Vikings milk out there. They are running amok, the Roughriders, okay? You got to get hyped when you hear a name Saskatchewan Roughriders, Cole. Okay?
Oh my gosh. Yes.
You're playing a team named the Edmonton Elks, who were formerly the Eskimos. I still don't know how that changed, but either near nor there, I digress. It's the Roughriders versus the Elks. You know who's going to win this matchup. The team with the better name and the team who has better talent on paper when you really look at the numbers in comparison to what we had in this game. I mean, I speak no false truths here, Cole. You know it, and I know it. Trevor Harris for the Roughriders, 305 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I know you're saying 2 interceptions. That absolutely sucks, but the Roughriders won 29-21, and he wasn't the only highlight with 305 passing yards and the 3 touchdowns over the 2 interceptions. Yeah, look at AJ Alouette. They gave him the ball 18 times. Yeah, he only mustered 40 yards, but he did have a rushing touchdown. Sean Bain, 5 receptions, 125 yards in the air, 3 touchdowns. All 3 of those touchdowns from Trevor Harris. He really trusts Sean Bain. Look at those numbers. That's a Rough Rider right there. On only 5 receptions, you have 125 yards and 3 touchdowns. Jareth Stearns, 7 receptions, 81 yards as well. The Rough Riders defense, 2 sacks and an interception by CJ Avery. Now, on the other side of the ball, the main highlight for the Elks, I feel bad for him. He's got a cool name too, but he's playing for a team that needs a better name. McLeod Bethel Thompson, 336 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception, along with 1 carry for 6 yards. Now, this right here is the dumpster Pelican stat of the game, okay? The Elks running backs without Bethel Thompson, 33 rushing yards on 11 attempts. And no, Cole, I'm spot on with my numbers this week, bro. There's no 2 passing yards, okay? Right here, it's 33 rushing yards on 11 attempts for the combined Elks running backs. You definitely ran the ball like an Elk. Now, the Dylan Mitchell, though, he had 7 receptions for 93 yards. And Hergy Mayala, 5 receptions for 40 yards and got the 2 touchdowns from McLeod Bethel Thompson, but it wasn't enough to lead the Elks to victory. The Elks defense, however, 2 sacks, 2 interceptions were the highlight for their defense. Darius Bratton and Kai Gray taking those interceptions right there. But with everything that I just threw out there in these streams there, Cole, what are your thoughts when recapping this game between the Saskatchewan Roughriders and the Edmonton Elks?
Well, the Elks used to be the Eskimos, but I'll start with the Elks defense. They probably are the only bright spot to me in this game for them. The fact that they were able to have a pass rush, not the greatest of pass rushes, but at least a decent one, and you're able to turn the ball over, get some turnovers. I mean, so that was good. Of course, the bad part for them is, well, the Roughriders passing game 8. So although they got 2 picks, they surrendered 300 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. So and over the air, through the air. So with the bright spot being their defense, they're basically saying their offense, well, okay, decent shakes. Look, I'll give it to Bethel Thompson. You threw it for over 300 yards. You threw for less interceptions than your opponent. So that's good, but and along with Dylan Mitchell almost getting 100 yards to the air, receiving. But when you have no answer for the opposing number 1 wide receiver, and you allow the Roughriders quarterback to just simply boogie in the pocket, chances are you have to go back to the drawing board. Good game, but this is to me emblematic of how a first week game, a first week in a regular season game should look like. You'll have your bright spots, your bright moments. You'll have the guys that will explode, and then you'll see ways where both teams walk out of that game needing to improve on something. Obviously, for both teams, it's the running game. However, I will say for the Roughriders, they at least gave the threat of actually running. I'll take 18 carries for 40 yards any and every day of the week. At least they gave an effort to run the ball with someone. So that's cool. They have to improve on that, though. But yeah, the running game to me, absent. And that has to change. And of course it will, because if it gets cold in the United States, you already know in Canada, it's like a doggone freezer.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, you hit the nail right there on the head. Weather is a huge factor. And the later we get into the year, it's definitely going to play a factor into how, some of these teams produce. Maybe not fully, but their star players, if they're stars at all, you'll find out if they're stars at this point in the year and they start to cool off by the end. But the ones that are consistent through and through are the ones that are the absolute studs out there in the field. And we'll see how much that plays in a factor as we go. Because, I mean, like we said earlier, the CFL season is very long. And their schedule is very abnormal. But with that being said, they do get multiple buys throughout a season. So I think that also plays a factor in how they recover and how they utilize their strategy throughout the game. So definitely a lot of cool things to say. That was our Saturday game, because I have our Friday game as the game of the week that we'll get to here in a few. So we've gone through our Thursday game and our Saturday game here for CFL action. Let's go ahead and take this into this next one. For the next game we have the BC Lions from British Columbia traveling to Toronto to take on the Argonauts. And the Argonauts were the team who were able to get their victory at home. The other two teams that we talked about, the other two games we talked about, the away team won, but we finally have a game where the home team won here. And it's all on the back of Cameron Dukes, 254 passing yards for 3 touchdowns, along with 5 carries for 37 yards on the ground with 1 touchdown as well. So 4 total touchdowns. I definitely would say he was one of the highlights, the MVP of this game, leading the Argonauts to victory right here. Kadeem Carey, 16 carries, 65 yards, along with 4 receptions for 40 yards and a touchdown, combining for over 100 yards total for the day to also help lead the Argonauts to victory. Dejon Brissett, 3 receptions for 52 yards and a receiving touchdown, along with Rasheed Bailey, 5 receptions for 50 yards and a touchdown as well. The Argonauts defense, though, probably the best defense in the league for week 1. I would say 6 sacks with an interception by Deshaun Amos. So 6 sacks that's a hefty number. It's tough to get 2 collectively as a team, as you have players sometimes combining for a sack, or tough to just get 1 in general. But 6, that's a lot of pressure on the BC Lions. And BC Lions are not like the Winnipeg Blue Bombers here. They are a pretty solid team. They're a pretty respected team. And when you look at Vernon Adams Jr. as the quarterback for that team, he'd outdueled Cameron Dukes as far as the fact that he had 363 passing yards in the air. But instead of the 3 touchdowns that Cameron Dukes had, he only had 2 touchdowns with 1 interception. But he also added 8 carries for 25 yards on the ground. William Stanback, 11 carries, 35 yards, along with 5 receptions for 50 yards, combining for a total of 85 combined yards. Justin McGinnis, though, 7 receptions, 103 yards, and a touchdown, was the highlight as far as receivers for both teams combined goes for the day. Travis Fulgham as well, 2 receptions, 54 yards, and a touchdown. And the Tiger Cats defense, not Tiger Cats, but the Lions defense, 2 sacks on the day. So I forgot to change that name in there, but you know what I'm talking about, Cole, but they don't. We'll see right here when we look at the total for this game. The Argonauts, 35, Lions 27. Cole, what are your thoughts when looking back on this game right here?
Well, I'll say this. That you're right. That's an impressive defensive performance, at least on the line. Now they probably have to tighten up some things with the secondary and possibly with the linebacking core when it comes to passing. But I definitely love that beginning there. 6 sacks. That's awesome. I love seeing the big guys get out to the QB and put that pressure in the QB. That's a great sign. Of course, you flip it over with the Lions, that's a bad sign for that offensive line, because that means they got to protect their guy a whole lot better. Now, again, I will stress, I'm not digging the running game for either team, although I will say for the Argonauts it's a little better. I will stress, I won't say anger, I'll stress disappointment, considering that you have a guy who was getting 4 yards a carry. I would still get some more, because if the running game was going like that, it probably will help that margin of victory grow a little bit more. But I know those who were probably with the stats, they'd say, well, hey, Kadeem Carey, he still gave you over 100 all-purpose yards. Yeah, but it matters what type of yards they are, so the Argonauts offensively, yeah, I'll admit that Cameron Dukes is probably the guy that actually stands out, and he spread the wealth, so that's good. That's a great sign, actually, because it shows that he doesn't play favorites. Whoever is the open guy, he can give you the ball. That's a great sign. It shows that he's almost in midseason form if he's that way. So that's great. And his counterpart, Vernon Adams, good game. Of course, the one pick is going to kick himself over. That's obvious. Throwing for over 350 yards. What can you say? I mean, that's great. And looks like there's chemistry between him and Justin McGinnis. What I don't like, again, that running game. Come on, you got to do better than that, and you have to show commitment. For me, it's not even about the yards. It's about the attempts. You can have 30 attempts for 75 or 80 yards as long as you give me the attempts, and you actually show the toughness that, okay, we may not be able to gain 4 yards a carry, but we could be 3 yards in the cloud of dust and still be on this field to beat you. So yeah, I'm impressed with both quarterbacks. I'm not impressed with both teams' running games. I think that's the best way I can put it. But I'll just say this about Argonauts defense: I hope they can keep that pressure up with the defensive line.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you got to look at the fact that both of these teams were in the playoffs last year, and they made noise in the playoffs. And the Argonauts were 16-2 last year. I mean, they were no slouch. I mean, they were the team of the league when you look at their record. In the Blue
Mhm.
Bombers, I threw a lot of shade on them for their first game of the year, but they were 14-4 in the West Division, and the Argonauts were 16-2 in their division over in the East Division. So, right here with the Lions being 12-6 last year, and then coming into this, they did their best to hang tough. Only losing by 8. Looking at the first quarter of this game, the Argonauts took a 6-0 lead at the end of the first quarter, but the second quarter was probably the most offensive production we saw out of both teams, as the BC Lions scored the majority of their points in the second quarter, putting up 20 points to 10 points by the Argonauts. So by halftime, it was 20-16, the Lions. The Lions were not messing around that first half. But by the time the second half came around, in the third quarter, the Argonauts put up 10 points to the 4 points by the Lions. In the following fourth quarter, we had 3 points by the Lions to 9 by the Argonauts, which ended with a 35-27 victory right here for them. I mean, putting everything in perspective and thinking about how this game went, it was back and forth, as far as the first quarter. I mean, the first half goes. But the second half, the Argonauts ran away with it, and they probably, I would say, knocked the rust off after halftime that they had coming into the first half.
Right. Yeah, and again, I understand that I'm putting this in perspective of, their season's just beginning, and sometimes you have certain outfits who outperform others. Normally, I would say normally the hustle portion of the of football normally sort of surpasses the strength for now, because normally you have fresher legs, and it isn't, as they say, mano y mano, which I hate that, but isn't man on man, and isn't who's the more physical yet, because athleticism doesn't get negated at times until you get further along, and you gather them nicks and those cuts and those bruises. So yeah, I understand that you deal with a fast field, and of course it's as warm as it's going to be, and so yeah, you're gonna have these types of scores, and you're probably going to have the exciting game for the casual fan, and I think that's what you see here.
Absolutely. I mean, and I totally agree with that. And people who are loving football are looking at games like these, especially when you have high scoring contests, like we saw throughout week 1 of the CFL, and especially with our last game here too, that we'll get to here in a second for this week. But this was back and forth, good action to start a game out. If you're a fan in the stands there, the first half is definitely exciting to watch. Second half kind of cooled off a little bit, but if you're just getting to the game, watching as kickoff and everything's happening, seeing this happen, it's got to be fun to be there and watch it live.
Yeah. Oh, no question. Yeah. So for fans, yeah, I think these first 4 or 5 weeks, I think is going to be more fan friendly in terms of what we're going to see in action and score. I really do believe that.
And I look forward to seeing what we got in tap for those upcoming weeks. But for our next one, we definitely have to get to the game of the week. That right here is the contest between the Hamilton Tiger Cats, who travel to Calgary to take on the Stampeders, and the Stampeders win 32-24. Jake Meyer, their quarterback, 252 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. Dedrick Mills, 13 carries for 87 yards on the ground. Clark Barnes, 6 receptions, 61 yards, and a touchdown. Cameron Eccles-Luper, 3 receptions, 40 yards, and a touchdown, as those are the 2 touchdowns that were thrown by Jake Meyer to Barnes and Eccles-Luper. The Stampeders defense, 1 sack and an interception by Demario Houston, so they were a little quiet on the day, but did enough to hold the Hamilton Tiger Cats and win 32-24. The big stat line of the day, though, for the Stampeders, I would say, would be their kicker, Rene Paredes, 6 of 6 on field goals for the day, with the long being 52 yards. He could be the Jake Bates of the CFL we could be talking about for this upcoming season. Bo Levi Mitchell on the other side of the game, too, 300 passing yards, a touchdown, and an interception, with 3 carries for 36 yards on the day. But it just wasn't quite enough, even though he had more yards in the air It's kind of like the story we were talking about earlier in the Roughriders and Elks game with McLeod Bethel-Thompson. But for him, he does what he can, but they still lose by 8. James Butler, though, 13 carries for 119 yards, along with Shamar Bridges, 7 receptions for 85 yards on the day. Keandre Smith, 3 receptions for 37 yards and a touchdown. Tiger Cats defense here, 1 sack on the day, so they were probably the most quiet of all defenses in the league. But the offense by Bo Levi Mitchell and James Butler kind of helped keep them in the game throughout it, as if it wasn't for the good kicker on the other side of this being Rene Paredes for the Stampeders, the Tiger Cats might have had a good shot if they didn't have somebody nailing 6 field goals on the day for the Stampeders. Putting all that in perspective, Cole, what are your thoughts when looking back on this game right here?
Well, I now I see why you picked this for game of the week. Both offenses were balanced, and when you see that, it does put the defense on their toes, and this is why I say a running game is important, because you can't key in on rushing the quarterback. You're probably thinking, oh man, they may hand off and they gash me if I try to blitz. So you start that guessing game. You start that chess match. That's what you want. And both sides, I give them credit. They executed. So that's a plus. Now, I would love for it to be more than just 13 carries, but hey, if you're able to get as many yards as both these guys did on these 13 carries, good. And I think that's a good start. I had to say the Stampeders. I'm trying to parse my words here. Do I want to say they got lucky? No, I'm not gonna say they got lucky. What I will say is this is why you have the start of the season. If you have that many attempts, and look, Rene Paredes, he got you 6 field goals. That's awesome. But if you have that many times in the red zone, or not red zone, that many times in your opponent's side of the field, but on third down, because I know with Canadian football, they only have 3 downs, not 4. Ding. So, when you get forced to kick field goals on third downs, that is something I think they're going to have to overcome, because they're going to have these games where, all right, you might get into your opponent's territory, you might stall in that drive, and you might not get that field goal. So it's great that they scored a couple touchdowns along with the 6 field goals. So instead of saying lucky, I will say that I think they still have more work to do in terms of their offensive continuity. That being said, I'm liking what I'm seeing with both offenses, actually. But I think with the Stampeders, they got to work on that continuity just a little bit more. With the Tiger Cats offensively, I like what I see. I do like what I see. The defense, on the other hand, not so much. And yes, they stiffened when the Stampeders got into the Tiger Cats side of the field. But you have to force the team to punt. And that's the one thing that I think they missed. And I think if they forced a couple of more punts, we'll talk about a different score. But both offenses I liked, both defenses not so much. Definitely the Tiger Cats defense. Yeah, it could have been a little better. And the Stampeders, they had to work on defense too. So, yeah, I love how offensively they both were good, because they both were balanced.
Both of these teams had very underwhelming performances last season. When you look at the Tiger Cats, they were 8-10 on the year with their record. That's definitely not really that respectable. And then when you look at the Calgary Stampeders, they were 6-12. So much worse than the Hamilton Tiger Cats.
Yeah.
And even though this is selected as the game of the week in week 1. They continue to play like they did similar to last year, and especially relying on field goals to win the game. At some point, somehow, some way, it's going to catch up to them like it did last year, and they're only going to get half of as many games that they play, or a third of as many games they play in as far as victories goes.
Yeah, because you settle. If you settle for field goals far too many times, you're going to think this is how your offense rolls. You're going to think this is your identity on as a team, and that's a slippery slope, as we have witnessed with another team in another league. So if they can find a way to punch the ball in the end zone to get more 6 points instead of 3, I would like the Stampeders' chances better. Otherwise, you might have some teams that, well, they probably will take those field goals and make it either dwindle the opportunities or make the field goal opportunities tougher. So they have to tighten up offensively. They got to convert more touchdowns, and if they could do that, I think their offense will be pretty good. But 6 field goals is great, but it's alarming.
Yeah, and the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because when I bring up last year, the Stampeders were outscored 471 points to 412. So if you're relying on your kicker that much, that I can see why those numbers were the way they were last year. And the reason why I bring that up is you got lucky because you played a team that was outscored themselves 461 points to 408. So that might fly in week 1 against a team that was outscored in points like they were last year. But if you continue to play like this for the remainder of this season, when you have 17 more games left to play in this long season, okay, you need to figure this out. You need to figure it out fast.
I could not say it better. I really could not, because this is something that, as they say, you have to get the Stampeders have to get in the lab. The coaching staff has to get into the lab, and they have to find a way to execute better when they are on their opponent's side of the field. If not, that 6-12 record you talked about, they may repeat that this year. And I'm not saying that they're bad enough to where that's going to happen, but if you only manage 2 touchdowns and 6 field goals, it could go that direction again.
Absolutely. And I look forward to seeing how things pan out with this league and with these teams this year. That pretty much recaps week 1 of CFL. That's not it for the opening drive, as we now have to talk about the UFL Conference Championships. And this right here, you see 18-31 is the first game right here, as Michigan Panthers traveled to Birmingham to face the Stallions in a game that, I was hoping that the Panthers would win, but the Stallions took the victory here. And in game 2, you have the San Antonio Brahmas in a away effort, winning the away game 25-15 over the Battlehawks, which Cole and I will break down here in the remaining moments of the opening drive. And let's start it off with the USFL Championship there, Cole. Looking at the Michigan Panthers taking on the 9-1 Birmingham Stallions here. And Adrian Martinez struggled a little bit in this game and kind of had to have some relief help by Matt Corral, which they've had to kind of do that at certain points this year to where they can continue their win streak they had for a while when they won 8 consecutive. But, Matt Corral came in to kind of clean up and had 120 passing yards and a little bit better completions percentage with 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. CJ Marable helped out with 8 carries, 77 yards, and Jordan Thomas, 2 receptions, 62 yards and a touchdown, along with Ricky Person Jr., the running back, but helped out in the air with 2 receptions, 17 yards and a touchdown. Amari Rogers as well, the third of the combined quarterbacks' touchdowns, 3 receptions, 11 yards, and 1 touchdown. The Stallions' defense, though, was a big, big contributor in this game with 5 sacks and 3 interceptions on the day, 2 of them by Ike Brown and 1 by Daniel Isom. Daniel Etling Danny Edling is what he likes to be called, but I'm calling him Daniel because he played like a Daniel. 182 passing yards and a touchdown with 3 interceptions on the day. Come on, Daniel, get it together out here. You made it all the way to the USFL Championship. You played really well. You did rely on Jake Bates quite a bit this season, but hey, you played well enough to get your team here. Throwing 3 interceptions, you just gave the game away when you only lost the game by 13 points. So 3 of those interceptions combined definitely contributed towards the loss. You've got to be feeling bad on this Monday. Not trying to rub it in. I'm just stating a fact. Looking at the rest of this, Nate McCrary, 11 carries, 62 yards, along with Cioso Mariners, 4 receptions for 60 yards and a touchdown. Panthers defense, 4 sacks, 2 interceptions, and those by Javin White and Adonis Alexander. Jake Bates, the man of the year in UFL as far as special teams kickers are concerned, had an underwhelming performance again, as it's like the second or third time we talked about that in the past month, as he had 4 field goals out of 6 attempts on this day. Looking back on this USFL championship, Cole, what are your thoughts after seeing all this unfold this past Saturday?
Well, I'm looking at it like this. I think the Panthers, like I was saying all throughout the year and definitely last week, I think they wanted to draw the Stallions into, I won't say a slugfest or a fight, but I think they wanted to draw them into a more physical matchup. They wanted to prove, well, we're more man than you, we're more physical than you, and I believe that we can, and we believe we can beat you with being physical. And the Stallions were like, no. We're Tupac. How do you want it? You want this butt whooping with a whole lot of points being scored on you? Or do you want it with us just simply slowly but surely punishing you play by play? Whichever way you want it, we will definitely provide that. They will definitely provide. I'm sorry, let me do this correctly. Yes, the Stallions all on the sideline was singing, "How do you want it?" And they said that, look, you could take this. Any way you want, because that's what we're going to give you. You had the Panthers defense, 4 sacks and 2 picks, which in a conference championship game, that is good. You want your defense to be that way. And I don't even put this on the defense. I put this on the offense because, like you said, when the offense hands a team 3 turnovers, that's not good. And so I don't put this game on the Panthers defense. I put it on their offense because your defense gave you 4 sacks, 2 picks, and you squandered those opportunities. And then to me, Jake Bates, I think one of the best players of this year in the UFL. Unfortunately, he only could make 2 out of 3 field goals this time around, and I think the pressure may have gotten to him. And this is a story that we have not just said today. We have said this for the past few weeks now. So you have the Panthers defense that did that, but the Stallions defense says, okay, we'll see that. We'll rate you. So we'll give you 5 sacks and we'll turn your team over 3 times. So when you have the defense do this, and you have the Stallions defense do what they did, and you have the Stallions offense putting up 31 points too, that to me is a total team victory. And I love what I'm seeing with the Stallions. Any way that you wanted, they could beat you any type of style. It doesn't matter. They can run you out. They can run you out the stadium. They can throw you out the stadium. They can beat you down. They can beat you up. However you want the butt whooping, they'll give it to you. And here they are. They're in the UFL Championship, proving that they have beaten all comers save one, with beating teams any way they would want.
Very, very well said when it comes to that. And the only problem for the Stallions, and with what you bring to the table there, is that they're facing a team that we're about to talk about from the victory of that game that's already beat them one time this year, the only team to beat them all year long. And when we look right here at this UFL Conference Championship game situation, and 18-31, I would say probably in comparison to all playoff games we've seen recently.
Yeah.
When
the
you
Panthers
look,
they didn't have a chance.
yeah, they didn't. And it's sad because they did not look like the team that we saw the week prior when they were actually scrapping. And the problem with that, because it was so close to this playoff game, is they might have showed a little bit too much and exposed themselves a little bit too much in their weaknesses from the prior week, to where the Stallions
100.
do what they do best. They pounced on those things that they were exposed on the previous week in this game.
Man, did they pounce. Oh, man, did they pounce. Yeah. And I think that's what happened. I think the Stallions were like, okay, so this team likes to be physical. This team basically wants to draw us into a physical battle. All right. So we might have something for them. And boy, did they ever have something for them. And yeah, credit the Stallions. They're a much better prepared team. And they proved it. They proved it this past weekend.
They did. I was definitely happy to see what they were able to do, because, you know, if it wasn't for, I knew McCarron was not going in. It was going to that contest we're about to talk about, fully healthy. And when we get to that, it'll make much more sense when I saw it. But to get a rematch between the game where we saw just one team beat the Stallions all year long, we said back then when we were recapping that game, there's a good chance that we could be talking about this matchup again in the playoffs. And oh, did we predict something great? Because we're now about to get to that right here. And I would say that it kind of qualifies for this, Cole. For the first time in quite some time, we have an upset of the week. You think about that there, Cole Johnson, right here. This upset of the week for the XFL Championship. And I say that just because of the hype that was on the Battlehawks and because of where the Brahmas were last year. It did make some changes during the offseason leading up into the 2024 UFL season. And we see them out there laying the smackdown like the Brahma Bull would, which is why in our promos for episode 41 today, we have the Brahma Bulls theme song, which you can find on Instagram or on Snapchat and my stories and Sir Toba's stories as well. Brahma Bulls music. You can find it. You can see it. You can listen to it for approximately 59.2 seconds. Now back to our scheduled program right here with the XFL Championship game. San Antonio Brahmas travel back to St. Louis to take on the Battlehawks. They won 25-15. Chase Garber's recently coming back from injury, been down a lot of the season after starting hot the beginning of the year. Quentin Dormady came in, was a good solid backup to get the Brahmas to a respectable place to where they can be in this position. Chase Garbers comes back, takes his position back, and leads this team to victory in the XFL Championship with 197 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, does throw 1 interception, but it didn't cost him as they still won by 10 points. Anthony McFarland, 11 carries, 115 yards, and 1 touchdown on the ground. Marquez Stevenson, 5 receptions, 56 yards, and 1 receiving touchdown. Along with Justin Smith, 4 receptions and 76 yards from the air to get the second receiving touchdown thrown passing-wise from Chase Garbers to lead this team to victory. The Brahmas defense, 4 sacks on the day. That's all they had. They didn't have any turnovers, but they did enough to do their job to hold the Battlehawks to 15 points. Ryan Santoso, 2 of 2 for field goals on the day, was definitely what helped contribute the Brahmas towards this victory. But here comes the stat line of the day. That is, this man right here makes his yet awaited appearance on this show. You know it, and I know it, and you know him as
Ain't nobody calling me, texting me, paging me, asking me, are you still
Tyrone
delete,
Alizé.
delete.
And you know him as Tyrone Alizé Mack. Dummy. He shows up in this game. 0 receptions and 0 yards on 1 target for the stat line of the day.
He put this man in the stat sheet, in the slate. He did not do a thing.
He had 1 target. He had 1 target, and his name is Tyrone Alizé Mack, dummy. You know he is the stat line of the day right here for this team, and we're going to get to more of him in a second. But A.J. McCarron, hobbled ankle and all, definitely did what he could to help the team, but only had 179 passing yards and a touchdown on the day. Jacob Sailors, 14 carries, 79 yards, along with 1 reception for 12 yards. The offensive player of the year for the UFL, Hakeem Butler, 6 receptions for 59 yards, along with Jake Sutherland's 2 receptions for 6 yards, caught the lone touchdown by A.J. McCarron. But running it back to the stat line of the day, how do you feel about this, Cole Johnson, and your recap for this XFL championship game?
Yeah. He puts up a guy that has no stats, 0 receptions, 0 yards. 0 receptions, 0 yards. Yes, he was targeted once, but he doesn't even influence the target. Lord have mercy. Goodness gracious.
You know very well on Monday mornings when you read these slates, there's at least one part in it that you get a laugh out of. And this is it.
Well, we can already eliminate all of this because my is Alizé Mack.
Just hold off on your statement for it until we get to it. Tell them why for that. But when you look at this game right here, I mean, he of course wasn't a factor. That was for comical reasons.
Obviously, yeah.
But Chase Garber's coming back, taking his seat back from Quentin Dormady, who filled it pretty well while he was down. I mean, he did have some young man mistakes out there that we talked about, but he did his job throughout the season to get them to this point. For Chase Garber's coming back in, the numbers weren't like, star-studded or anything, but they were well enough and respectable enough to help lead this team to victory. Taking Tyrone Alizé Mack dummy out of the equation and thinking about this team as a whole between offense, defense, and special teams, what really stood out to you in helping them lead this team to victory this past weekend?
All right. Now, what stood out to me is, I think they were going to have to win this game, the Brahmas. I mean, with what I thought he was going to have to do, and that is actually put the pressure defensively on the Battlehawks. And what I liked about what they did was, this is what you normally do. If you smell blood, you're going for the kill. So they knew that AJ McCarron was gimpy. And although, yes, he beat them 1 week prior, they were like, all right, well, let's test that ankle. Let's test him out. Let's see if he can go on it. And if so, then he'll be the better man. They'll be the better team, and we'll bow and we'll tip our hats. But we believe if we force this guy to actually do some damage with that gimpy ankle, we might stand a chance. And boy, did they do that. So when you test that ankle, that good things results. And you have that. And people could say, well, look, garbage only threw for 197 yards, and he even threw for a pick 2. That's not really all that impressive. No, but that's not to me. I could care less about the yards. I like the fact that they were actually willing to run the ball, and they were willing to force the issue on the defensive line, and that's where this game was won. The 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 Brahmas, to me, I think they have been, from game 1 to now, the most physical team in the UFL, definitely most physical team in the XFL division. That's no question. And they want to actually say that there isn't a team that is more physical than they are. And if they line up 11 on 11, especially on the defensive side, we got something for you. And the one thing I love about Son of Bum's defenses is that, or Wade Phillips, and that's not a slight on Wade. That actually it's a compliment of love, and he knows that, Bum son. But the thing about Wade Phillips defenses is that they may be small in stature because he loves small-ish players on defense. They fly all over the field, and when you have that activity on defense, and they can beat teams that are bigger, that are heavier, that rely on strength, but they beat teams of strength to a spot, and they do it over and over and over again, you start making those tongues wag. And that's really what the Wade Phillips defense is built on. 3-4, and they are built to just simply go, 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 go. And when you have that, this is the result you have. So credit to the Brahmas. They defensively did their thing, and they shut the Battlehawks down. And to do it in their building, that's even more impressive.
It really was. And it sets the tone for what we're going to see next week, because we already saw one great matchup out of these two teams, during the season. And we're about to get to a point to where we see that again, hopefully this week. Hopefully we don't see a blowout by either one of these teams, like just completely smacking them around. I mean, that's not what we want to see when we get to that. And we'll break down more of what we think is going to happen in that contest for that next week's game. But right here, right now, when we look at, these two games right here, the UFL Championship is decided. The Birmingham Stallions will take on the San Antonio Brahmas this Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern time on Fox. And we'll break that down more here in a little bit. But to get there, we had to see this. And that is the final between these two matchups, Michigan Panthers and the Birmingham Stallions, and the San Antonio Brahmas, who are named after The Rock, who owns the UFL, against the St. Louis Battlehawks. So a lot of cool things happening in 2024 for wrestling fans, for The Rock making an appearance at WrestleMania. And not just that, but also wrestling as well. And then you have a team that he's named after making it all the way to the inaugural UFL Championship game. I mean, this seems like Hollywood in a script, but they're definitely not playing like it's scripted if you're watching these games out here on these TVs.
No. And this is actually the matchup that I think we should have for the UFL Championship. Of course, I know we'll go into more detail later, but that Brahmas defense, that is what impressed me. I'm glad that they didn't hang their heads, because look, let's be real. For the exception of the last drive last week, they did their thing in that game. So, they came to play that week. They just simply weren't able to come up with the stop on the final drive of last week's game. And all it did was just influence where they were going to play, because I think the Brahmas went back home, they practiced, and they thought, okay, when we go back to St. Louis, they only beat us by a point. We know we can get them. And that's what we saw. We saw a team that went back to St. Louis, and they were like, okay, this is all business. And we believe we have the better defense, and we believe the defense can dictate the tempo. And boy, did it ever.
Absolutely. They definitely did. And, it was definitely something that was fun to watch, and look forward to seeing what comes of it in the following week to culminate this first season for this UFL combined league between the USL, USFL, and the XFL. On the other note of that, we do have to get to our first commercial break, but when we come back, we still have the Gridiron Scoop, the featured attractions, and the 2-minute drill to get through, along with our picks for Snowflake of the Week and our Dog of the Week picks. We'll see you here for an hour 2 on the other side of this first commercial break.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On two. Ready? Break.
We're just getting started. Total Football Talk will return right after this. Whether it's news, the largest egg producer finds bird flu in chickens at a Texas plant, weather, devastating tornadoes rip through the heart of the United States, inspiration, a breast cancer survivor completed the journey of chemotherapy, and now begins a future one of matrimony, or sports. Michael Jordan is shown on a photo with Diddy. LeBron James has a video extolling the virtues of a Diddy party. This has been yet another beating a dead horse presentation. We got you covered. BS3 Network proudly presents The Morning Shift with Cole Johnson, live every weekday morning beginning April 29th at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central. Hey, Eagles fan. Join my man Cool McCain and a host of others as they break down every single game, every single week in an objective manner, and also from a fan's perspective as well. Remember, this cast feels just like you. Nobody likes you. And you don't care. Fly, Eagles, fly. Eagles Elite Podcast. Every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and other podcast outlets.
Everything Boston. I love you morons. You kids from the block, New Edition.
Dear whatever the law firm is. Sincerely, the U.S. Supreme Court.
Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. Go yourself again, Jason.
Welcome back to Total Football Talk, your source for hard-hitting gridiron action. We are back for episode 41 on this fine afternoon as we talk about the Packers, Eagles, as they were told not to wear green due to gangs. We recapped CFL's Week 1 action. We recapped the UFL's Conference Championships. And now Cole and I are back to discuss some more things with you for hour 2 that we have in store as we have to get to now the Gridiron Scoop. Here for the Gridiron Scoop, first up on this, we got tight end Darren Waller announced a sudden retirement from NFL following health scare. Do you believe that he maximized his potential after 8 NFL seasons, or is this a case of gone too soon?
I believe he maximized his potential when he cheated on his wife. Oh, my bad. That's not what you asked. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Kelsey. Kelsey plumbed it.
Oh yeah, I'm voting that for my now upset of the week with Cole Johnson just set up here on our program. Say it again.
I was like, well, yeah, I believe that Darren Waller maximized his potential by cheating on Kelsey Plum. Yes. No, but for those who I know you are aware, obviously, but for those who aren't, Darren Waller was, for at least 5 of those first 7 years, he was the number 1 option for the Raiders, and he was actually considered the best tight end not named George Kittle nor Travis Kelce for many of those years. So I think he came close to me to maximize his potential on the field, but I think either age or interest must have caught up with him when he signed with the Giants, or he just felt as though the Giants are just a horrible team, that it's like, okay, I shouldn't put forth the effort because these guys absolutely suck. I don't know, but I think he came close to maximize his potential, and it's unfortunate that he has to cut his career short.
Yeah, it's definitely after 8 NFL seasons, and especially with what he was doing out in the field, you wouldn't have thought that right now in 2024 we'd be having this conversation. But of course,
Right.
you brought up some of the dirt right there, which could be a contributing factor, along with,
Mhm.
the health scare that there's definitely been, talked about publicly. I wish him the best. It'd be nice if this was a
Yeah.
temporary retirement. He's able to get his off the field issues straight and be able to be fully healthy and come back and play maybe in 2025. But
Mhm.
now you're in your 30s at this point. There's no guarantee after a year off you can come back like Rob Gronkowski did and do what he did. And especially, you played in a different system with a different quarter. There's a lot of different factors at bay for Rob Gronkowski, and how not only he got, his first 3 Super Bowls, but the last one, the 4th one with Tom Brady. Okay. And Darren Waller's nowhere in that category. So playing 8 years, he's still not anywhere close to the caliber of what Rob Gronkowski was within his first 8 years in the league at tight end. So we can't put him in that echelon.
Mhm.
He did play during the era that we had that greatness going on in the league, and he did have some flashes in the pan. I mean, he was productive at times for the teams he played for. The Raiders, the Giants. I mean, I look back and think about the times that he had with them. He was only with the Giants 1 year, or was it 2? I think it was 1, if I remember
Just
that
one.
right. Just
Yeah,
1.
it's just
Yeah.
one.
Okay. So yeah, it was just 1, but it was kind of underperforming if I look back on what he's done here recently. Coming out of
Oh, he
Georgia
didn't do
Tech.
yeah.
Yeah, coming out
He
of
didn't do
Georgia Tech, he
anything.
was pretty hyped.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, coming out of Georgia Tech, he was pretty hyped. Going to the Baltimore Ravens for his first few seasons, and then for the Raiders for the remaining time up until 2023 when he went to the Giants. He did have a Pro Bowl selection in 2020 COVID year, but I mean, it's kind of like the participation tournament that they had for the NBA championship the Lakers won during COVID. It was kind of easy, I guess, to get awards during that year. It was like participation medals all year long, but I digress when it comes to that and him getting the Pro Bowl during that time. But I wish him the best. Hopefully everything works out for him during this time off, figuring things out. But right here, right now, it was great that we had 2 upsets of the week here on this show based on what happened with what Cole said. Speaking of the Giants, running back Devin Singletary on taking over for Saquon Barkley. I'm just going to be me, he says, quote unquote. Considering that just being him has produced lackluster numbers in 5 NFL seasons, what are your expectations for him this year with a new team?
Okay, so he's on a new team. He's on a line that's not going to be quite as good simply because you have one of the best centers to have played in the last 20 years retiring. And you have a QB that loves to run the ball more than he should. You might see more law diminishing returns. I mean, look, Saquon Barkley is an absolute dynamo in terms of athleticism. If you give him a chance, he can carry the ball 20 times and he can actually catch out the backfield 5 or 6 in a game. He could do that. The problem has been for him, he has not been on the field often enough. And that's why the Giants were like, all right, if you can get someone else assigned, we don't really give a crap if it's even a divisional rival, have at it. And that's exactly what happened. What the what the Eagles like to do is they'd like to do running back by committee. So you have that also entering into play with Saquon being the guy as the running back for the Eagles. And I look at what they did with DeAndre Swift last year, where he did gain over 1,000 yards. But I really did feel, and I still feel this, I feel it in my gut to this moment, they left a lot of yards on the table with him on the ground. And it wasn't because of his lack of effort. I just think it was a lack of calling his number. And I think we're going to see more of the same with number 26. Nick Sirianni will lack calling his number, and Jalen Hurts will take some rushes away from him too.
Okay. So you think that basically from that, you think that both running backs are going to struggle in their new homes? If I picked whether you turned out correctly. And it's not going to be based on their talents. It's going to be based on their leadership.
Well, in terms of Devin Singletary, he's the type where he could have one great game, but have two games where you forget he actually is your starting running back. And that's just how it is. It's, he could give you like the 30 carry, 150 yard game one week, and he give you 30 carries or 60 yards the next two. I mean, he's just been that up and down. He was that up and down with the Bills. He was that up and down with the Texans. I don't really see anything different with how the Giants use Saquon to run the ball and how they will use Singletary to run the ball, because I think they'll do similar with him. And I think they'll get not as much of a contribution. So yes, I do think both Singletary and Barkley will struggle in New York and South Philly, respectively. I'm sorry, Northern New Jersey and South Philly, respectively. I don't want to insult those who actually live in New York.
Yeah, and we do know those who live there, but also those who are from there. We have in especially Jersey area, like our guy Wazel Hefe. We don't want to leave him hanging out here in these streams. He already still won't let me live it down. 1-7. He won't let me live it down.
He sure won't, especially since the Giants swept Washington. Yeah, he definitely won't let you live it down.
It's all good, but you know what though? Nah, I'll save it till the next time we're on In or Out Sports Debate. When it comes to that right there with this topic right here, I figured you would be able to fill us in quite well because you just had a year with Devin Singletary on the Texans, and you are like my closest insider that I have to the Texans because that's your team that you follow. So with that being said, like I wanted to get this topic in there, and you just broke it down better than what I've seen anybody else break down that story. So I don't think he necessarily put his foot in his mouth, but at the same time, I think he needs to try to do better than just being him, because just being him outside of what arguably could be said as his best career year last year with Houston, and it was because of the team he was playing with, he needs to find a way to mesh like that with this new team that's not going to have as many talented pieces around him on the field as well as in leadership like he had in Houston. He's going to have to step his game up and not be just him, because just being him, fitting into a good team is one thing, but you're going to have to step it up another notch and show them what you really are and actually maximize your potential like the last guy we were talking about. Actually do that if you want to have numbers like you did last year and improve on that as well.
Yeah, and you could have said it better. Being him will basically get him similar numbers that he's had. The Giants did not sign him for him to just simply be him. They signed him to make a difference. And if he's not going to think that way, then the Giants signed the wrong guy to be in the backfield to replace Saquon Barkley.
Absolutely. So that's why I was bringing that up today. I wanted to bring that up so that way those of you who are Giants fans or follow them or cover them, you should be concerned about what he just said. That's just was the point I was trying to drive home with this right here. And last on the Gridiron Scoop, we have Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice vows to mature after a tumultuous offseason. Do you believe he can meet the expectations for his growth, or will he become the Ja Morant of the NFL by continuously making dumpster Pelican-esque decisions out here in these streets?
I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong. I don't think he can right now. And it's not to say that I'm doubting him. I just don't think he understands the weight and the gravity of what he did this past late winter, early spring. I don't think he understands that in February he was a member, and well, he technically still is a member actually, of the back-to-back world champions, and you helped them maybe on that, and maybe in that stage, in a small way, you helped them achieve that ring. And only 1 month later, you decide to go fast and furious in Dallas on an interstate highway. I'm not sure if he quite grasps understanding that. And then on top of it, you you gun the car and speed down the highway, and then you leave the scene. I don't know if he understands that he committed crimes. I can't even say he committed a crime. He committed crimes. And that's something that's something I think he needs time to understand. Now, I believe the Shield will give him that time, but hopefully he can. I want him to grow. And he's going to if he's going to play in the NFL, he's going to have to grow, obviously. But if he thinks that his talent is going to be good enough, where it's like, well, I mean, hey, I'm the best wide receiver on the team, and yeah, all right, so I had a lead foot, and I was scared, and I left the scene. So be it. We've had ball players actually kill people in cars. I think I'm good. If that's the mentality he has, no, then the expectation will be very low for his future growth. And he would be a John Morant of the NFL, because we will probably see him speed down I-30, I-35, I-20, or I-60 or I-635 in Dallas yet again. What he has to do is he has to take ownership of this and understand that he could have put a whole lot of people in more dangerous, disadvantageous situations than he did. And he should be thanking the good Lord that no one actually got killed by that action. But hey, if you're talking to me at June 10th, 2024, the answer is no. But can this be different 1 year from now? Sure. But I think he has to understand, I can't be doing that type of stuff. That's the energy he has to come with. And hopefully he's coming with that energy now.
It's going to be interesting to see how things pan out, but I agree with you on this particular date in June. I don't believe that he has come anywhere close to that point of even beginning to mature. He might be trying to acclimate those steps, but when I was young, I made mistakes too. If you go back and you watch, I'm not trying to like pull up bing, but if you go back and you watch D. Willie in the evening, I've told some stories about when I was younger and I was a teenager, and especially if you look at the time where I got 6 tickets at one time, very entertaining. But when you think about all that, you got to learn from something, you got to grow from something, right? And that was a very expensive process for me as a teenager working a part-time job, and I learned lessons from it. From that point forward, I've matured as I've gotten older and made less and less mistakes. So this situation that he's going through is far, far worse than what I could even fathom. Okay. So I think that in time, if he's truly true to his word and is vowing to grow and mature and become a better person and not be reckless out there, okay, I think that in time we can see him, by the end of this decade, become what he's supposed to if he really works hard and tries. Because myself am a success story in comparison to where I was 20 years ago. Okay. So I can look at myself and say that if I can do it and he's on a higher platform than I am, he's got a really good chance and a lot more contacts and connections to do that than say I did at that point when things were different back then 20 years ago and technology's evolved. There's a lot of different things that you have at your disposal to help you or break you these days if you're not smart enough. So I think that if he surrounds himself by the right people, he'll be okay and he'll be able to make things work as he gets older. But if he just kind of is like, I'll do what I want, but just say what they want me to say, kind of like what Ja Morant was doing, and then we eventually saw through that, then eventually he's going to get exposed again. So hopefully his vows are 100% true, and we see a change in this young man.
Yeah, because ultimately that's what I would like to see. I mean, I want him to. I want him to understand that he is a valued, responsible member to society, and that you may perform a skill that most of us don't, and most of us truly can't. But that does not mean that you're lord of everything you survey, and that the rules of life don't apply to you. And hopefully he understands that. And with that understanding, yes, he will become better. But like you've understood, and look, I've made silly mistakes as a child too, and as a young adult too. So I'm not saying that he's the scourge of society. He sucks. He's horrible, or he's a B. No, I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying that I'm not sure if he, as the young man he is, I don't know if he is matured enough to where he actually can, with the snap of a finger, say, "Yeah, I'm done. I'm gonna pay the price. I know, but I'm going to be better from this point forward." I'm not sure he's there yet.
And it sometimes takes some others. It takes some a little bit longer than others to figure that out. But other than that, if he gets to that point, we'll be happy for him. We'll celebrate it here and look back on this day and look back on these times when he got in trouble and say, did he do it or did he not do it? And we'll be able to conclude on that at some point down the road, as we still have many Total Football Talks to go before we get to that point. He's got a lot of Total Football Talk episodes before we cover this again, unless he does something negative to where we have to revert back to it. But hopefully, just hopefully, this man does what he's supposed to out here in these streets. And before we go forward, I want to acknowledge some comments real quick. It's been a while since we have, and Playmaker is in the house. Says, "Whoa, is that D Willie?" And yes, it is. I have not cut the hair yet. I know where you're getting at. Oh, every single time we do an episode here, Cole's even got to admit, for the time I've had this hair since 2020, I've showed up each and every episode looking fresh and professional. Like you can't even tell what's growing back there. You just can't. Keeping it fresh up here in these streams. But to help you out there, Playmaker, to give you a little bit of a promo, you can go back and watch me with hair from last night. Did have the hair down for the very last episode of D. Willie in the Evening of Me with hair, because and I know I'm cutting it this week. And back to the other comments that you guys are leaving out here. It looks like Playmaker also says, "What's up, gentlemen? Laugh out loud," as we were talking about what we were talking about at that point 10 minutes ago. Breaking things down out here in the Gridiron Scoop. But Playmaker also, set some history last week, becoming the 40th person to become a panelist on the Inter-Out Sports Debate, along with yourself there, Cole. The vault has been growing, and hopefully soon we got an announcement to where we can get Cole back up there, because if you remember that one intro I did for you, that one episode, you have no idea it was coming, because I've been brewing up something and cooking something since we started talking about me and you and Kyle and the trios and all of the bing and all that stuff. I have been cooking up something, and it is going to be a fun evening when we get that cooking. But before we do that, we got something else we got to cook up that you and I love to do each and every week, and that is get to our dog of the week.
Total Football Talk.
Where are my dogs at? I know where they are. I got one right here. That's my boy Cole. As we're going to talk about our dog of the week for this past week in football between NFL, UFL, CFL. What is your choice for dog of the week?
Let's see. What would be my dog of the week? I mean, there's some good choices. There are. I mean, I could go into the CFL ranks and uh, and go with the Argonauts defense for giving us 6 sacks, or Rene Paredes for 6 field goals. I mean, um, I mean, I could go there. However, I'm not. Uh, I could go with in the UFL, the USFL Championship, uh, giving the nod to the Stallions defense for giving 5 sacks and 3 interception performance. But I'm not. I'm not. I think where I'm going to go is I'm gonna go to the Brahmas, and although there's been stats that are more impressive, sometimes it's not about the volume. Sometimes it's about when you have the performance that you have, and I gotta give I gotta give it to all 11 of the Brahmas on defense. Uh, Given this 4 sacks when they could have mailed it in because they held their opponent that they played this past week to 13 points the week before, but that was not good enough for a W. And so they decided to, put the pressure up the ante, and they performed on the second highest stage in the UFL. And when you could put together that performance, you just had to tip your cap. So to the Brahmas defense, those are my dogs this week. Those are my grand champs.
Great selection for your pick there in Dog of the Weekend. You know, we already know who you're going to pick is for your snowflake because you alluded to it earlier. All right. I already know. I definitely know where you're going to go with that. And I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say for that. But when I put this in perspective, I got to go with someone from a different league. I got to go with someone from the CFL. And for my pick for Dog of the Week, I'm going to give love to special teams, right? Because we gave love to Jake Bates throughout the season when he was hitting his high notes over there in the UFL. CFL Week 1 action, we already got a kicker kicking 6 field goals in the game. 6 field goals in the game. Perfect on a day 2. 6 for 6 on field goals, with the longest being 52 yards. And he did have some other ones that were pretty close to the 52-yard kick. How are you going to not give love if you're not giving it to a whole team like Cody? I get where he picked that because that's the reason, a big reason why the Brahmas are in the championship game this upcoming week. But
Yes.
there's certain points throughout our show here, 41 episodes now, to where we do give love to special teams, and in some cases not enough. And I'm going to make sure in this case, when you have a kicker kicking 6 field goals on a day, and a 50-yard field goal is not easy to do, okay?
No.
If so, you and I would be doing it and getting paid
Right.
10 or 15 years, making millions of dollars to kick one through the uprights is 50-yard field goals, okay?
Yep.
And especially in the weather and the stuff that they got to deal with, on an irregular basis over there in Canada, got to give this man credit to what he did this past weekend. I am going with the man who did that, Rene Paredes, who we talked about, who is part of that Calgary Stampeder team that won, a team that is full of dumpster Pelicans that were 6-12 last year. And he led them to victory this past weekend, okay? So they might have a dumpster Pelican-esque record this year, but they don't have a dumpster Pelican kicker. And the NFL needs to look at this man like they've been looking at Jake Bates all year long in the UFL. I'm hyping my man up for the Dog of the Week this week when it comes to our pick in episode 41.
Oh, I can't hate about that because he was someone I was targeting too. So yeah, 6 field goals made, one of them 50 yards. Yeah, that's not easy. So yeah, good choice. Good choice.
Thank you, sir. We both had some professional picks, and today we've even got a professional up in here. As the playmaker says, I don't know how Drew survived the Monarchs. Talk about last week's episode on episode 109 of the In or Out Sports Debate, which was a great episode there. You guys got to go back and check that out on Sartoba Media. But I tell you how I survived, and Kyle can too, is because your boy is no beginner out here in these streams. That's how I survived, hanging tough with you guys out here on the In or Out Sports Debate. as the playmaker throws more emojis out here in these streams.
Oh, we're hanging tough. Oh, my bad. We're rough.
With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we have now gone through our grand champ. We're going to go through our last commercial break. And when we come back, we've got the featured attractions, the snowflake of the week, and the 2-minute drill to round out our 2-hour show. We'll see you here on the other side.
Coming up next, the featured attractions. This is Total Football Talk. Comey Media Incorporated. Creating content magic in the real world.
In a world where chronicles of the past are brought to the streams, whether the content is relatable or completely beyond your realm of life, there is no shadow of a doubt that this show is absolutely full of shenanigans. Get ready for
D. Willie in the evening.
this Sunday at 10:05 p.m. Eastern.
Exclusively on Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, look. Hey, stop playing games. Y'all already know. Go ahead and toss him some Willie Bucks. Ain't nobody playing around. Hey, $ D Willie 87. Go ahead, hit him up on the Cash App, and go ahead and give him some Willie Bucks. Look at Drew looking stoic, ladies and gentlemen. Stoic on that $10 bill. So go ahead, slide my man over some Willie Bucks, and we good. That's all I'm saying. We good. How about some Willie Bucks?
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Oh, yes. The tradition, the pageantry, the spectacle, the history, the slut. Wait. I gotta rep my brother's stuff right. All my DMV soldiers, stand up! And welcome to the Commander's Gridiron Report. You want your commanders to be repped right? Well, D. Willie is your man. Commander's Gridiron Report. Every Tuesday at 11:05 a.m. Eastern, 10:05 a.m. Central on the Sertoba Media YouTube channel. Music by J. Cool.
Where my soldiers, right side, Commanders. Where my soldiers, left side,
Welcome back to Total Football Talk, your source for hard-hitting gridiron action. We are in episode 41 today. As you can see us discuss, the Packers Eagles were not allowed to wear green in this upcoming contest for week 1, and we'll get to that in this rounding out of this episode right here. And Co is ready. I am ready. We're going to take this into our featured attractions. Here for the featured attractions, we have to take a look at first when it comes to CJ Stroud, someone that you know very well there, Cole, over there in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he compares wide receiver Nico Collins to Hall of Famer Andre Johnson. Quote unquote, he's a generational talent. Do you believe that this comparison is valid, or is Stroud on cloud 9 out here in these streets?
Nico is talented. I'm not going to say otherwise. Nico Collins is talented, and we have to actually look at CJ Stroud as a guy who we might have to understand that he may be knowing what he's talking about. But I would say it's probably a little bit of both. Nico has skills. Now, is he on the par of Andre Johnson? We shall see. I, of course, hope that that's the case, but if not, that's still tall. That's still a tall order, because to me, Andre Johnson is one of the best receivers I've ever witnessed. Because I've never seen a receiver do it all like he could. But Nico can do a lot of those things. He just now needs the seasoning to take to have it take hold and get to the next level. And he does have something that I think Andre Johnson never truly had, and that is a great, or I should say, great in the making quarterback. I mean, people could say, well, I mean, he did play with Matt Schaub. Yes, Matt Schaub did well until he decided to be Mr. Pick Six. And every game he played, he decided to throw pick sixes all the time. So you had that, and of course you had, of course, the Texas were a team where, heck, just with DeAndre Hopkins, the dude had a 100 catch season with 4 quarterbacks. That was the type of stuff that Andre Johnson had to deal with. I mean, his 2 best quarterbacks he played with would be Matt Schaub and David Carr. CJ Stroud seems to be a little better than both of them. So Nico is ahead of the curve there. But I do think that this is a sort of a sales job too, like selling to us that Nico is a good guy, and selling to Nico himself that, look, this is CJ, baby. I got trust in you. I think you're the man, and I'm going to make sure that you are going to be the man and have the platform that's going to be, and I'm going to throw all the platitudes in your direction. So I think it's part truth, part sales job.
Okay, I mean, I see where you're coming from, and where the part truth, part sales job on that. But I gotta look at this and wonder, was it too much too soon to say that publicly? I mean, you haven't been playing together that long. You only have 1 season under your belt.
Season.
And anything can change during your sophomore season and beyond, and anything can happen. So I just hope that he didn't put his foot in his mouth by speaking up a little bit too soon, even though he's really excited. He's really hyped. They had a great first year together. I get all that. Like I'm not downplaying any of that. I've been a big supporter of the Houston Texans from what we've talked about throughout starting this show, covering all last season. I was happy for you guys. Had to be happy for someone because the team I support isn't doing well. Okay. So, I mean,
no.
You just got to be lucky that I'm actually supporting a team in Texas. Okay. So when you put all that in perspective, I'm happy for you guys. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, obviously the good one. But yes, I feel you on that. And it's just going to be a matter of time before we see if this is totally true or not. And I hope it is, for the sake of you and everybody else who is fans of this team.
Oh, I totally agree. Now, you ask me, I'd say, look, too small of a sample size, CJ. Too small of a sample size. And I'm saying this with the fact that I believe that Nico Collins is a really good wide receiver, but let him put forth maybe 9 more of those, and then we can probably talk. But for now, not yet.
Nah, a little too soon. I'm 100% with you on that. But I also, if it was in-house and you're saying it to him to kind of, boost the confidence, to help him, I wouldn't say boost the confidence, but help it keep that fire lit pretty well underneath of him, then I would say, that something like that, I would encourage that. But, maybe for things like that, for everybody else going forward, kind of hold off a little bit longer. Have a few seasons under your belt first, because you didn't have Peyton Manning out there praising Marvin Harrison to that nature after 2 or 3 seasons, let alone 1. Okay. So just to put all that in perspective for that, or even Randy Moss wasn't getting comparisons like that even after his rookie season, where they did really well in 98 for the Minnesota Vikings. So putting all that in perspective, hopefully this eventually will be a learning situation for everybody involved.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
And next up on our featured attractions, Bills outside linebacker Von Miller practicing without knee brace for the first time since 2022 injury. How much will playing without a brace affect him at this stage in his career, Cole?
First time without a brace. Okay. See, I did not know that.
Yeah, first time in 2 years.
What do I think about that? what I think about that. I think it will affect him more mentally than it will physically. Physically, I think right now, I mean, his game is to the point where all he has to do is just get on the field, and that's a victory for him. I think for him, it would be more of a mental hurdle that he's leaped, because if he's able to do that without a knee brace, then I think he would feel as though he can be as close, I won't say to his elite self, I'll say as close to probably his rookie second year self as he probably can be, but he just has a little bit more tools in the chest in his head and not as much of a burst. But we have witnessed how players have looked when they felt as though they needed to have something to aid being on the field versus when they take that aid off. It's just that mental block that for some reason it's there, and then when they take the apparatus off, they seem to perform much better. I'm thinking that unless he gets injured again, this is actually a good mental hurdle for him that he's cleared more than the physical one.
So I like the take on that overall. I also agree with you. I think that it's going to affect him more mentally, because we were already talking about before how Von Miller was expecting that, or we expected, and there was also rumblings of him retiring after last year. But then when he got hurt, he didn't want to end his career on that note. So that's why he's been pushing to come back in 2024. And to some people, it was even a surprise when, he won the championship with the Rams, still came back and then ended up playing with the Bills to try to seek a third championship with a third team. I mean, that's still a great feat to achieve. But at that point, what you did with those two teams was still great enough. You could have hung it up then. Money's nice, but at the same time, I really hope that when he goes out there and plays this year, that he can make it through an entire season physically and not have to throw that brace back on, and that he is truly fully healed. Because a lot of times, even after you have serious injuries and you fully heal, you might be able to do like the normal activities without a brace, but something as physical as football, I feel like you should still be rocking with a brace, especially at this point in the career and how physical not only the game is, but his position in itself.
Oh yeah. I mean, look, all the protection is necessary, and we're not talking about a spring chicken here either. So we would say that to someone who's in his 20s, dude's in his mid 30s. So now it is to the point where you have to make sure that you have all the protection necessary to get on the field, so that you can put yourself in the position to not hurt yourself as easily as you probably could, sans the knee brace. But I understand why he doesn't wear it. I said I understand why he doesn't wear it. And while my brother Drew is on me,
you gotta love it. Gotta love the accidental click of the buttons or not remember to click it back. But when I think about everything you just said and what we've culminated here with the Von Miller subject, I hope that he gets through this season very well, can hang his career on a high note. I don't know if it's going to be with the championship this year with the Bills, but at least finish it out strong. And hopefully this decision to not use a knee brace doesn't come back to haunt him.
Who's giving them the business?
For our last topic here in the featured attractions, thank you, sir. And for our last topic here in the featured attractions, is our main topic here on our graphic for the show today. Packers and Eagles told not to wear green in Brazil ahead of scheduled game this fall due to colors being gang-related. Do you believe this will be a mandatory thing when it comes to their uniforms this upcoming fall? Or will it just become a rumor by the time week one contest of these two is underway? What are your thoughts?
I'm thinking somehow the NFL is going to have some way to get in touch with whoever is around that area and like have security and do a ceasefire where this can continue onward. Otherwise, we would have to have one team wear yellow and or white, and the other team to wear gray and or black. I mean, to me, this is a telltale sign of the NFL not studying where they're putting these games. I mean, and for those who don't understand, the reason why green is being dissuaded by the NFL to actually be put on is because it is considered I don't know in Brazil, but definitely in Sao Paulo for sure, green is considered a gang color, which I shake my head because the country flag of Brazil is adorned in green, but I digress. Somehow I think we'll see the second game of the season, because this is when it will take place. I think it will go off without a hitch, and I think we'll see the Packers and Eagles wear the uniforms that they're accustomed to wearing. I can't see them adjusting because of this. I think that the NFL will have some type of protocol in place where everything will be fine. All I's are dotted, all T's are crossed, and everybody affiliated with the NFL is like, there's nothing to see here. I think that's what's going to happen.
And I'd hope that that's the case when it comes to that. I mean, rumors start swirling around this time of year. I mean, because in June, and at this point in June, there's really not so much going on in the NFL outside of, things that happen out there with like Rashee Rice, and then when they actually give the small interviews and the small sound bites here and there. So with this situation right here, it kind of threw me for a loop when I heard it the other day. I was like, really? Like, you're inviting these teams, you're inviting the league to have games here. I'm sure that when they announced that they were going to have the Brazil game, there was probably discussion of the teams that they wanted to have, because with the NFL first going to the Brazil, there's probably a fanhood of certain teams in the NFL in that area. And probably those two teams were polled in the top two teams along with everybody else. They were probably the top two in that poll. So that's probably why that got selected as the week 1 game in Brazil this year. In my opinion, I don't know 100% factually, but that's what I'm guessing. And now you're picking teams that have green colors. Okay. Both of them wear green. And you're now telling them as green is their main color for both of their teams. Okay. You have green and yellow for the Packers. And then of course you got like green and black or green and white for the Eagles. Okay. It's been historically known. And you're going to tell them that they can't wear their own unique colors in your country because you fear that it is gang related, or to your knowledge, it's gang related in your area. So because of that, even though your flag has green in it, you can't wear green in Brazil. That is what I picked up on. And I was like, I got to talk about this with Cole next week. As soon as I heard this last week, I was like, you know what? It was only a few days ago, but still, I still wanted to make sure it was a topic of discussion for today, because it is absolutely absurd when you think about, you do all this prepping, and all of a sudden, after you dot your I's and you cross your T's, then you throw a stipulation out there. Oh yeah, you can come, but the teams we agreed that they're going to come play in this week 1 game cannot wear green because of this. And now the NFL is also saying, when you've got players from the Packers speaking out on it, saying that this is the case, you got the NFL chiming in saying this is not entirely true. So looking at both sides of this, it's going to be interesting to see what happens by the time we get to week 1 this year. But I figured it was definitely worth talking about for a couple minutes on the show today.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. But I think by the time September gets here, they'll find some solution. I can't think of I can't fathom one team wearing white and the other team wearing black, or one team wearing yellow and the other team wearing white. I can't picture that. I can't picture that.
That would absolutely look horrible. If they wore yellow, one wore yellow and the other wore black, then it would look like rotten bananas playing out there in the field. Like, come on, bro. Like, y'all can do better than that. Come on now. But with that being said, that pretty much rolls through our segment for the featured attractions. Let's go ahead and take this into our favorite part, and that is Snowflake of the Week. Oh, yeah. It's that time again for the Snowflake of the Week. Coles isn't going to be that long as he already told us, but tell him why.
Oh, Lord. The snowflake for this week for me is Alizé Mack, and it is not even close, simply because if you're going to put him on a stat line and celebrate him and take up time to actually talk about the fact he only got targeted once and had no receptions for no yards, he deserves that treatment, and all of you deserve this.
Ain't nobody calling me, texting me, paging me, asking me, are you still involved?
And that can go for Alizé Mack too. No one's calling and texting him.
Calling me, texting me, paging me, asking me, am I still involved? Y'all use the chat.
They're asking Alizé if you actually can play in the game.
I'm
That's
still
what
them boys.
No, you ain't. No, you're not.
Still them boys.
No amount of tongue speak is going to save you something.
Oh!
None.
Them boys. I'm still them boys.
No, you ain't. Stop lying to the people. Stop lying to gays. Stop lying.
I'm still them boys.
Thinking you sound like Brian McKnight. Son, please. Brian. Damn! Sad.
Well, Cole's pick is definitely absolutely great, and I hope that I can match that with my pick of the week. I'm not going to pick the same person. I'm going to go a little bit differently, but, I'm going to go with somebody who I just named today and just named right here 4 seconds ago in my mind. Dirty Daniel Etling is my pick for the Snowflake of the Week. Why is he Dirty Daniel? Oh, Dirty Danny Etling. No, Dirty Daniel sounds better. 182 passing yards and a touchdown, 3 interceptions in a USFL Championship game to help throw the game for your Panthers that worked their tails off to get there, have a chance to beat the Birmingham Stallions. And had you not thrown 3 interceptions and had Jake Bates made all of his field goals, not missing 2 of the 6 that he attempted, this team could have upset the Stallions and actually made a berth in the first ever UFL Championship game. My selection for Snowflake of the Week is Dirty Daniel Etling.
A nickname to boot. Well, hey, I did not create a nickname, so I'll give you much credit. Nice.
I appreciate it, brother. We're going to try to take those creation moments into the next segment, that being the 2-minute drill. Oh, yeah. Get hype. It's coming in, and it's coming in fast. When it comes to the 2-minute drill, let's start this out with CFL Week 2 action. As you see up here on the screen, we got the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They played terrible last week, but they play again on this Thursday. Traveling to Ottawa to take on the Red Blacks, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time on TSN. Followed by on Friday, the Montreal Alouettes travel to Edmonton to take on the Elks, who were absolutely terrible last week. But we'll see how that goes as they play Friday at 9:00 p.m. Eastern time on TSN. On Saturday, you have the Calgary Stampeders traveling to British Columbia to take on the BC Lions, 7:00 p.m. Eastern time on TSN. You'll see on that Saturday for that contest, as well as the team with the name that I like, even though they played terrible in 2023, but great in week 1 this year, the Saskatchewan Roughriders travel to Hamilton to take on the Tiger Cats this Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern time on TSN. Don't you forget there at the bottom of the screen, you can see the week 2 bye goes to the Toronto Argonauts this week. When you look at what we have on tap right here, Cole, and especially for the first game right here that I mentioned for Thursday, you have the 0-1 Blue Bombers taking on the Red Blacks, who had the bye last week. What are your thoughts for this Thursday's contest?
Well, I actually have to say, I think the Red Blacks, they could not have drawn a better opponent personally, because I think, yes, I know you had the Lions who allow more points. Same with the Tiger Cats, but the Blue Bombers didn't really put forth to me a performance where it's like, okay, so I know what type of team they are. They're just missing a piece here, piece there, and missing probably some chemistry issues here, there, and they're probably lacking confidence. They don't know who they are, and I think Ottawa can come in and they can literally just I won't say steal. They literally can just get a game if they show effort and throw their helmet on the field. I can't say throw the helmet on the field only, but if they show effort after they throw the helmet on the field, I think they can. I think Ottawa can get a W without fully trying against the Blue Bombers, and it's at home for them. So there you go.
And considering how we talked about how the Blue Bombers lost, last week, you could definitely go their way for the Red Blacks, and we haven't really seen them yet. So and based on what we've seen in preseason stuff, I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to say the Red Blacks have a pretty good opportunity this week to make the Blue Bombers start 0-2. And the Blue Bombers were a pretty respectable team when you look back to how they played last year. But I'm going to side with you on this one.
Who's giving them the business?
When it comes to our Friday game, the Montreal Alouettes are 1-0, taking on the Edmonton Elks, who are 0-1 this Friday at 9 p.m. And I say Edmonton Elks because the name's so boring. It's kind of like Bueller. On Ferris Bueller's day off, when you have the teacher, clear eyes is for red eyes, up there saying Bueller up there at the front of the classroom. When I think about that, I think about the Edmonton Elks. Are they going to underperform and go 0-2 in this game, or do you see them getting their first win against a team that already has a victory this year?
So what's an elk? Is it those guys that wear those ridiculous hats and they meet once a month and they pay dues? Are those the types of elks they're talking about?
Oh, you talking like moose lodges and stuff?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, it's understandable if that's what. What? Can't you see that I'm recording here? Thank you. So I'm just thinking if it's one of those. What? Oh, okay. It's an animal. Okay, it's a pup animal in Canada. Okay. Look, with all that being said, I want to have them get a W, but the Alouettes looked really good. I'm not saying they're great, but they looked really good. They looked solid. I mean, and I think they could build off of the road W they have with another road W here, and I'm going to roll with them. I'm going to roll with the Alouettes.
Couldn't have said it any better. I think the Edmonton Eskimos are going this game we're going to pick right now. I think this could potentially, really, really potentially become something I've been wanting to play all episode. And that is the Dumpster Pelican game of the week. And they will be the Dumpster Pelican team up there. Now, for right now, the question is, which one are they? The leading Dumpster Pelican right there, the top corner, the one beside it, the one standing on the food line back. Let's make this thing repeat for a second. Let's talk about the Dumpster Pelicans out here in these streets. This team right here, when you look at the Edmonton Elks 0-1 at home against a team like the Montreal Alouettes, they'll be lucky to not be the Dumpster Pelican team of the league with that one with the longest beak at the top right corner.
Oh, Lord, have mercy.
It definitely will not be a... That's all I got to say out here in these streams. So
it definitely will not be an upset. Okay.
Run it back.
Who's giving them the business?
Our Saturday game, the Calgary Stampeders, who are 1-0, travel to British Columbia to take on the Lions. 7:00 p.m. Eastern Time on TSN. Go! What are your thoughts? Think Calgary Stampeders are 2-0 after this game, or will they show who they really are when they lean on their kicker to bail them out with another 6 field goal attempts? Will they get this win right here, or will we see the Dumpster Pelicans fall on their face?
I'm believing the Lions will break through. Look, they they played as good of a game as they could against Toronto, and they came up with an L. But I think that they're going to come home. They're going to lick their wounds, and I think they're going to actually put up a good fight and get them a W. I feel that when they get to Vancouver, everything will be good and everything will be cool and copacetic. And even though the Stampeders put up 32, sorry, 18 of those points came from field goals. I think that they're going to have a couple of those opportunities where either it's a field goal that's missed, or they couldn't get close enough to get a field goal attempt. And I think one too many of those would lead to a Lions victory.
I think the Stampeders are going to come in here and whoop that.
Hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell no, no, to the no, no.
No, sir. Calgary Stampeders are going to take that big fat.
Let me talk to you.
Been waiting all episode to click that button right there. Look at this situation. When you look at the Calgary Stampeders leading on that kicker last week, you think they're going to come in here and smack around the BC Lions? Yeah, they're 0-1 for a reason, but they didn't rely on their kicker throughout the game to keep them within a one-possession loss, okay? So putting all that in perspective, I'm looking at the Calgary Stampeders taking the big fat.
Surprise, motherfucker.
Was it or was it not?
Oh my gosh.
Welcome to Monday, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, my brother, testify. Hey. Who's giving them the business?
In our last game of the week for CFL, the Saskatchewan Roughriders, who are 1-0, travel to Hamilton to take on the Tiger Cats, who are 0-1. 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. Yes, I do. But it comes to that with my beloved Saskatchewan Roughriders take the win, or will you say in this moment they're going to sit up here and take the...
Oh man, you're too funny. I think I'm gonna go with the Rough Riders on this one. I think they're gonna go into Hamilton. I think they're gonna take care of business. I don't think it's gonna be a blowout, but I think it has the potential to be a shootout. And I like basically what I'm seeing with the Rough Riders a little more than I do with the Tiger Cats. So I think we're going to be seeing a W for your Rough Riders.
To help the Juju, as much as I want them to get the W, to help it, I'm going to respectfully disagree and say they're going to take the... in hopes that they come away with the dub.
That is hilarious.
And that is my pick and our picks for the first part of the 2-minute drill. And now we have to take it to the UFL Championship game right here. As you see, the Birmingham Stallions make it to the UFL Championship game to take on the San Antonio Brahmas, the namesake of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. This Sunday at 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern time on Fox. The owner of the league, is, from what sources say, is expected to be in attendance for this game, being it's the UFL Championship. Do you think we'll have a chance for him to show up and say this?
You should know your role. And
do you think he will?
Let me think. Well, I'm thinking long and hard. Do I think he's going to be saying that? Do I think that the Brahmas will be saying?
I think I got my swagger back. Oh.
Do I think the Brahmas will be saying?
Acknowledge me. Now, that is absurd.
Yeah.
Because the Brahmas, as good as they are on defense, they are. How am I going to put this? I think Edge did this beautifully. They're just a little bit above crap tackle on offense, and they will be taking that big fat juicy. And the Stallions will win their second straight championship.
I love the prediction right there. I love it. But you know what? It's about time that we take it to a section of an upcoming show we're going to be on. And I'm going to respectfully disagree. I am out on that one. As the Brahmas showed up this year and served that team the big fat juicy. The only one that they had been served all year long, Cole Johnson. You have the DNA of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson running through the veins of those jerseys. Not the veins of the body, but the veins of those jerseys. They are custom Brahma Bull designed for those Brahmas. It gives them superpowers to where when they go out there, they can do what they need to do on that field to get to this point right here. Chase Superman Garber's out there leading that team to victory like he did this past week. Got to give the man that credit that you got to. He is not on the list of dumpster pelicans right up here at the top of this. You stand on the food line bag, everything.
Lord,
and I know he is just waiting for someone to
acknowledge me.
And I'm trying to do that right now. Is that a total
surprise, motherfucker?
Or are you saying this?
Stop it. Get some help.
If you're saying the latter,
that's terrible.
Goodness.
What?
I say it's terrible.
What?
You know how terrible it is.
What?
Oh, there it is. There it is for you. Now we're right here, ready to rock and roll. We only got one more thing left to do. We'll come back to this next week as we both disagree on the championship game. Cole's probably right. I'm going to be royally wrong, but I had to give you something to be entertained about as we round out the end of this show and take it to our final part, and that being the post game.
As long as it's one. It's great. I love it.
Don't let it fool you. The hype is still here. As we take it to the post game, Cole gets ready to let us know his closing thoughts, rounding out episode 41.
All right, so boys and girls, think about it. We are now less than 3 months away from the NFL season starting again. And I know you have felt that paw in your stomach when we saw McCole Hardman catch that touchdown pass from Patrick Mahomes when overtime in the Super Bowl was the first overtime was almost over. And you were thinking, oh, Lord, now it's going to be several more months of drudgery. It's going to suck. I have to find other ways to entertain myself because football won't be played, at least the NFL version of it, for that long. Well, now we're less than 3 months away from it beginning. And we're less than, and we are less than 6 weeks away from actually seeing training camp. And we're less than 2 months away from the Hall of Fame ceremony weekend that gets a little bit of our juices moist and our palates wet for the NFL again. But although we won't be seeing the NFL for a while, it's actually been good to see the UFL and even the CFL a little bit, because I think what happens is when we get a chance to see these other leagues, I think it puts the best brand of football in perspective. It even puts college football in perspective too. In that you now see these guys who, they they're past college and they want to cut their teeth in the biggest arena that football can provide. And they believe that they can be on that stage. It is a beautiful thing to witness that guy who may need to have that last chance and make good on it. And we see him struggle and make hay and get to that spot to where an NFL team will put the flyer out on him and say, yeah, we saw what you did in the CFL. We saw what you did in the UFL. I think we'll give you a shot. Come on our team and see what you do in spring train in the training camp. I think we might have a space in our lineup for you. It's beautiful to see guys who they are either not equipped enough to be in the league, or they need a second chance to be in the league, or they just simply need to knock off the rust. In any case, in putting the CFL and the UFL in perspective, I think the most beautiful part and the most beautiful aspect about that is we could say it's not NFL. Yeah, of course it's not. But the NFL will call come knocking if they perform well enough. And when I look at the UFL and look at the CFL, I think this probably is what the American Dream really is all about. No, not the American Dream, just the road. No. We're not talking Bollywood, if you will. We're not talking hard time. No. Not that American Dream. No. Although, look, rest in heaven, Dusty. Love you. One of my favorites of all time. Another sport. I digress again. No, we're talking the American Dream. That is, if you were to get your hands dirty, if you were to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, get in position and grind yourself until you get to where you were meant to go or where you're destined to go. That makes watching both leagues worthwhile. Now, if you're going to watch it from the standpoint of, well, the action is not quite as good because the talent is not quite as rich. Well, duh, it's not. The NFL is the best talent you have when it comes to football. Let's just put that out of your mind. The best talent in football is the NFL, period. These other leagues are about seeing those who are hungry enough to want to be on that stage get on another to prove themselves because they're too old to go to college to do it, and they have other platforms where they can attempt. Those two, and of course you have arena football too, but you have these arenas that exist, and because of it, we get to see beautiful performances and we get to see diamonds in the rough like a Jake Bates. We get to see probably those in their twilight careers like an AJ McCarron. We even get to see coaches who might have their last hurrah like a Wade Phillips or Bum's son. No matter what, though, when you watch the UFL and CFL, you got to look at it from the aspect of seeing those who want to achieve their dreams. They can't quite grasp going to the NFL yet, but they have an opportunity to knock off the rust, to shake off the dust, and to refine the skills necessary for them to get there. And God bless all of you in the CFL and the UFL.
Very, very, very well said for your closing thoughts here in our post-game segment. And I've got to say, I'm going to piggyback a little bit on what Cole said there and say that, I think that the more professional football we have with now the combination of the UFL, with the USFL and the XFL in the UFL, and now the CFL, it gives more footage for the NFL, the main powerhouse of professional football, to have eyes in different areas to see how, these players that they passed up on originally are growing if they're elevating themselves to where they're exceeding their expectations as to why they made it to the CFL or the UFL to begin with. If they've grown from where they were at to being the reason why they didn't make it in the NFL to the point to where they are now. So it's great to see like the stories like, we've got Hakeem Butler in the UFL, with what he's did as a wide receiver for the Battlehawks this year. He's definitely being mentioned as someone who can get an opportunity in the NFL this season. And there's going to be many players we're going to talk about in the CFL over the many, many weeks ahead that, are playing for a Grey Cup and then won't be surprised to see them, pop in somewhere in the NFL at some point. So I think that, basically where you went down the rabbit hole with all that was definitely a great way to end this show. And something I just wanted to piggyback on shortly, just to reiterate that I'm with you on that. And I 100% agree with you on that and look forward to seeing what we've got. This is only 1 week of CFL football. And after this upcoming weekend, it's the only professional football we'll have when the UFL championship concludes on Sunday evening. So the beautiful part about that is to where what we've got now in Total Football Talk is a lot of people, unless they're like a major network, wouldn't have the type of content like we've had over now 41 consecutive weeks. The show hasn't missed a week, hasn't missed a beat. And it's all because of what my man over here, the EP of all EPs, Cole Johnson, had laid out for us for the foundation of this program. And sometimes, only good, teammates can help each other out when you need to keep things going. So that's how we are right now. Total Football Talk is still here today. We still have a lot of football talk to talk about over the course of the upcoming months, and we haven't even gotten to NFL yet. So these names that we're talking about on this show, don't be surprised if you hear them again at some point in 2024, but in an NFL uniform. So us bringing the exposure to this, you being the fan of professional football, or maybe not so much of a fan as CFL or UFL as you may be once you listen to this show or other shows alike, break down what's going on in these leagues. So hopefully these names that we're talking about will be able to, repeat later in the year when we have NFL action. That's up to their portfolio and their footage they have from these two different leagues between the UFL and CFL combined, and how they're going to market that success from there into how it could replicate into the NFL. We got many things that we've discussed, throughout this show. Another thing I'd like to throw some light to is make sure if you haven't checked it out already, or if you are awesome, but make sure you're checking out every weekday morning, the morning shift with Cole Johnson on BS3 Network. You can see it at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, 7 a.m. Central Time. Check it out on Roku, BS3 Network YouTube channel, as well as Cole's channel he has for himself there out here in these streams. You can also go back and check out D. Willie in the Evening, episode 24 from last night. It is now available on Sartoba Media's YouTube channel. And of course, you now know once this completes, you can go back and check out the full entirety episode of this right here, episode 41, right here tonight. If you're listening to this on Real Wise Radio on this Tuesday, then you can go back and watch the recorded version. But if you are listening to this live tonight, Monday, 9:05 p.m. Eastern Time, the last time I'll be battling it out here like a Viking with the hair on the Inter-Out Sports Debate. The hair will be down. Dio will be back for the 7th time on the Inter-Out Sports Debate as he moves into the top 5 of Vault of Fame inductees. It will be a great episode tonight, but I had a great time today with my man here on Total Football Talk, episode 41. And look forward to the next one already. Cole is there. I think
awesome.
he is. He's moving. He is, my man.
Yes.
Well, ladies and gentlemen,
yes.
We only have one more thing left to do. You're welcome. You're welcome. The streams must be acting up on us right now. A little bit of a slight delay. I get it, though. I get it. I feel you. I was like, is Cole frozen? And then you started moving. It was great. But it's okay. You won't hear this on Real Wise Radio because I know how to edit out here in these streets. As Cole knows from when I sent him that exact on the dot 2-hour audio clip last week from last week's episode. You listen through it through and through. It doesn't even sound like it's edited. But it is, just so you know, if you're listening out there on the radio right now. We got some more radio things we're going to be making our waves to in 2024. I'm very confident in that, but shout out to Real Wise Radio for giving us our first opportunity to be on a radio platform. That means a lot to me. It means a lot to Cole. Us having this collective project together and having it on the radio airwaves. It's the first of many this show is going to be on at some point between now and the start of the NFL season, and I guarantee it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no question. There's not even a debate. No question. No question about that at all.
Brother, you know, we only have one more thing left, and you are the right one, to send us home.
You got the right one, baby.
Well, then, to reach Drew and his myriad of social medias, you can catch him on searchup_media on Instagram, searchup_media on Twitter or X, and of course at searchup_media on YouTube and other places as well. And for me, you can catch me on flowcode.com/page/host Cole Johnson. That's flowcode.com/page/host Cole Johnson.
I have got to get on that.
Oh, Lord.
I've started. I just haven't completed it. Give me a break.
Oh, my goodness. You are hilarious. Well, all I have to say is thank you, Lord. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. And thank you for commenting. Thank you, Tribe. I appreciate you. I'm sure Drew does too. We appreciate you guys. And thank you for hitting that notification bell so you can catch everything that comes from the mighty Seartoba Media YouTube channel or the Comey Media Incorporated YouTube channel. For Drew Willingham, I'm Cole Johnson, here to say in parting, as we always do, in life, just like a tackle, keep your head up and always remember, you got to play until the whistle blows.
And as always, stay safe out here in these streets.
Yeah, what he said.